reality is at hand! Destroy them, my children.
All imagined order personnel to escape craft.
All imagined order personnel to escape craft.
Wake him up. You just had to be the hero, Jones. You know what happens to heroes?
They, live to fight another day?
Not this time. Do it.
No, don't do it, don't do it!
This isn't personal, Jones. Although I do plan to enjoy it. Would someone see what that is? Impossible. I watched you die.
I got over it.
You came back for me!
You promised me Jeno.
Well, love you too, buddy. Okay, so what's the plan? Great plan!
Shoot anyone who tries to stop me.
Tries to stop you from what?
Taking us to the other side.
What? Oh, I am keeping this.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Could you maybe speed it up?
You want faster? Help!
How is This is not helping!
Main console, gyro system, disable it.
On it! How do I do that?
Figure it out!
Figure it out, he said. Oh, got it. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
It's done. Initiate phase 2.
Looper spotted. That is our way in. Hold them off. All right, everyone, fall back. Area secured. See you on the other side. Everyone follow me to the bridge. We'll be safe there. It's fun to run for your life, huh? Great cardio. Let me get the door.
Warning. Rotation at 5 degrees.
Let's move, everyone. Whoa! Oh, this is nuts.
Warning. Rotation at 15 degrees.
Don't worry, guys. I'll move the bus by myself. It's right up here, and I will give you a water break soon. Heads up! I know another way. Guys! What a day, am I right? Careful, edges are hot.
Warning. Rotation at 30 degrees.
This is the epicenter of the island, you guys. We're safe here.
Warning. Rotation at 45 degrees.
That's the last one! We did it!
Where's my gun?
Okay, I may have dropped it in the 0 point.
Why does she make me keep saving you? Good, you made it. And you brought the loopers.
The surface is lost, but we should be safe here.
Warning. Rotation at 60 degrees.
You call this safe?
It'll hold. It's rated for 1,000 times atmospheric pressure.
Well, what about that?
You ready to swim?
Another student has died from their injuries in yesterday's school shooting in Michigan, bringing the death toll to 4. And here is the first photo of the young man charged with terrorism and first-degree murder. He's only 15, but he's being charged as an adult. Amber Cagliano has more.
He's the baby-faced suspect in the school shooting saying his prayers. He was arraigned today as an adult on 4 counts of murder as his parents watched via Zoom.
I'm Jennifer Crumbly.
James Crumbly.
Ethan here.
15-year-old Ethan Crumbly's father reportedly bought the gun used in the shootings, a Sig Sauer 9mm, just last Friday. The teen posted this photo of the weapon with the caption, "Just got my new beauty today." Student Isaac Fantich was in class with the suspect the morning of the shooting.
He looked depressed, like when you see him.
That day or every day?
Every day.
And these students are being praised today for their quick thinking in the midst of the school shooting. You can hear somebody trying to persuade the students to open the door.
Sheriff's office. It's safe to come out.
But the savvy kids don't buy it.
Now, we're not willing to take that risk right now. I can't hear you. We're not taking that risk right now. Okay, well, come to the door and look at my bag, bro.
That does it. When they hear the word bro, they believe it's the shooter.
He said bro. Red flag.
They flee out a window and rush across a courtyard to safety.
Slow down, you're fine.
But Sheriff Michael Bouchard said today it wasn't the school shooter behind the door.
More than likely it was one of our plainclothes detectives, and he may have been talking bro in a conversational manner to try to bring them down from the crisis.
Hey, this lady used Gorilla Glue as hairspray and you won't believe what her hair looks like now. 40-year-old Tessica ran out of hairspray and for some reason she had Gorilla Glue on her counter, so she decided to spray it all over her hair. If you don't know what Gorilla Glue is, it's one of the strongest glues in the world. And a little while later, her hair was as stiff as a rock. She tried washing it out 15 times and even went to the emergency room, but nothing worked. But finally, a plastic surgeon named Michael Obango offered to help and you won't believe what her hair looks like now. But before I show you, I found this app that lets you remove anything from your photos. Just press the link in the comments to get it. After 4 hours of using adhesive remover, aloe vera, olive oil, and acetone, this is what she looks like now, showing off her brand new hairstyle.
How to actually beat red light, green light in Squid Game, and it's not what you might first think. The robot in red light, green light detects movement by scanning the playing field with its eyes. We can see that the players not moving are highlighted in green, and the players that fail turn red. However, as for the old man that we later learn is actually a VIP, himself and the players around him don't glow green. This is to protect him from being shot if him or anyone around him moves. Therefore, the best way to beat this game is to stick right next to the old man.
Some people masturbate more than they brush their teeth. Kids growing up today with iPads.
Hey, you know what's better?
Some people masturbate.
Yeah, so the other day I had a drive to Vegas, and like it was just this really long.
If you're ever in a conversation where you can't
like,
get a word
boring,
in,
and I just didn't really
drop
know
something.
Oh, my bad. Well, that's a crazy story. I won't keep you any much longer. I gotta go, but good luck with that, okay? Bye. Okay.
You act super excited every time you see someone.
What's up? Oh my god, Bella, hi! Hey.
They'll
look who
eventually
it
be
is. What's
excited
up?
to see you too.
Hey! Hey, what's the hardest thing about watching that orphanage burn down? My dick!
If someone tells an inappropriate joke,
My dick!
act like you don't get it.
The hardest part? I don't get it. Hard, like my dick. You get turned on by burning orphans?
Makes them realize it wasn't funny.
Hey, you know what's better than
Netherite, the uber-strong material that makes diamond look like cobblestone. A material so powerful that it's hiding in the depths of the scariest part of Minecraft.
We really want people to try to figure these things out by themselves, keeping the sense of mystery.
Well, if the Minecraft lore is supposed to be a mystery, then consider me your persistent detective. So far, we've covered a lot. lot of Minecraft lore on the channel, covering the history of this ancient builder race that constructed the monuments that we see throughout the world, something that kinda got confirmed by Mojang recently.
So, the lowdown is, these cities, they come from an ancient civilization, but... Are you still recording?
We've also talked in the past about the Nether, and why those soul sand valleys are even creepier than they seem. However, across all this discussion of Nether and the wider Minecraft lore, we haven't talked about one of the most important materials that you find down there, netherite. Although netherite is one of Minecraft's newest materials, only coming out in June of 2020, wait, it's only been a year since it was introduced? Wow! Seems like it's been forever. Time is just an illusion, man. Anyway, despite it being so new, from a lore standpoint, netherite is one of the Minecraft world's oldest mysteries. Since that update, buried deep within the Nether, you can chance upon ancient debris, emphasis on the word ancient, which you can then smelt to form netherite scraps. For those, combined with 4 golden ingots, gets you a netherite ingot, which you can then use to upgrade your diamond armor into even more powerful gear. All of this then raises the obvious question, what is netherite? Clearly it's supposed to be a fictional substance, but when has that stopped us before? So what in real life is harder than a diamond? Well, nothing. There isn't really anything on Earth that compares. The scale that real-world scientists use to measure hardness, the Mohs hardness scale, was calibrated to be a 1 to 10 measurement, with 10 being the hardest. And who set that level to 10 and is also the only one in that category? You guessed it, diamonds. I know that in a previous theory I actually went on my way to prove that diamonds weren't actually the best material for building things like armor, because although they're scientifically hard, they're not necessarily tough, which is just opening up a whole other can of worms that we've already addressed. Anyway, since Mojang keeps ignoring my letters to make diamonds more realistic, diamonds are officially the strongest material for us today. So if nothing in the world is harder than diamond, what then is netherite that makes it harder than diamond? Well, what about something that isn't from this world? In the middle of the Arizona desert, there's a massive meteor crater that's over 1.1 kilometers or 0.7 miles in diameter, and it goes down to a depth of 170 meters or 560 feet. I actually got a chance to visit it myself when Stephanie and I moved across the country last year, and trust me, the numbers do not demonstrate how big this thing is. It is massive. As far as scientists can tell, this crater was formed about 50,000 years ago when an asteroid fell from orbit and struck the Earth. And boy, did it leave a mark. Not only that, but upon striking the Earth, the meteorite actually shattered into tons of little pieces. But little might be a bit of a stretch. Here's me and Ollie standing next to the largest fragment ever found. As you can see, it's not so little. Regardless, these fragments went flying, and so scientists have spent decades hunting them down and excavating these meteorite fragments. In 1967, though, they discovered something that was truly out of this world, lonsdaleite, a substance that is, in fact, harder than diamond. Despite its outer space origins, lonsdaleite lonsdaleite is actually extremely similar to diamond from a chemical perspective. A diamond is just a lump of carbon that's been subjected to a lot of heat and pressure, such that the atoms bond together to form a crystalline cubic lattice structure. Lonsdaleite also starts off as a lump of carbon, but is subjected to even more intense heat and pressure, causing its atoms to bond together differently. Instead of forming a cubic lattice, it forms a hexagonal lattice, which apparently is even stronger than the cubic lattice of diamond. Theoretically, a piece of lonsdaleite with a perfect hexagonal lattice would be up to 58% harder than diamond. The big asterisk here, though, is that the lonsdaleite fragments that we've recovered so far have just a lot of impurities, and as a result only measure around 7 to 8 on the Mohs hardness scale. But in its pure form, lonsdaleite is basically diamond plus. They're both essentially the same material, carbon, just subjected to different levels of heat and pressure. And the fact that it's so similar to an actual diamond makes it a fascinating parallel to netherite. Because remember, netherite gear isn't just something that you can create from scratch. Instead of putting together a couple of ingots on top of a stick, you need to start from the base of a diamond sword, and then add a netherite ingot. Netherite gear is just an upgraded form of diamond gear. Not only that, but the lonsdaleite recovered from that 50,000-year-old meteor is all in the form of scattered fragments, which I suppose one could describe as ancient debris, just like it is in Minecraft. So what? Am I saying that netherite is the remains of ancient meteorites that fell from space? Well, as much as I'm tempted to make this episode about Minecraft's ancient aliens, the nether is a closed ecosystem with a ceiling, which means it's completely cut off from outer space, so that seems pretty unlikely. Plus, the truth about lonsdaleite is even though we found it in meteorites, it's not strictly an alien substance. Remember, it started off as regular carbon. Scientists in fact believe that while it was floating in space, the carbon was just simple graphite, no different from the graphite that you can find in your pencil. Well, okay, not exactly the same. The tip of your pencil is only 65% graphite, 30% clay, and 5% wax and other resins, but still, basically the same idea. Anyway, thanks to the meteorite's size, it was big enough to survive the heat and pressure of entering our atmosphere, and in turn created the conditions necessary to create lonsdaleite. Now, if only there was somewhere in Minecraft that was super hot and pressurized. Oh wait, there is a reason it's called netherite, after all. Places like the overworld and the end simply don't have the environmental conditions necessary to create this stuff. Not only that, but netherite, in item form, literally floats on lava. Seems like a pretty useful property for any civilization making its home down in the nether. So was netherite made by this ancient race of builders that I keep harping on about? I doubt it. We believe the ancient builders to have come to the nether centuries ago. They built the nether fortresses that we find, storing their loot in their chests. They farmed netherwort to feed their pigs, and they did weird experiments to revive the souls of their fallen comrades. But through it all, netherite and ancient debris are nowhere to be found. You never just see it lying around a fortress or used to fortify any defenses. It's not found in any chest. It could be that Mojang just never updated the nether fortresses, but they never have been afraid to change old elements to include new ones. For example, drowned now don't drop gold, but copper, which feels like a pretty major change. So it must be a purposeful decision to not include those elements in the nether fortress, meaning that the ancient builders aren't the ones that we're looking for. However, in a surprising twist, Mojang did actually hint at some of the lore implications when the nether update happened back in 2020. Take a look at this. Quote, "Piglins mined it all out. Now the only way to obtain it is by salvaging netherite scrap from ancient debris. The piglin can mine blocks. This is not a mechanic that we ever see in the game. Piglins can hunt, they can barter, they can even dance, but we never see them mine, which means this isn't a game mechanic, but lore. Sweet juicy lore. If they're capable of mining, as well as the other things that we just mentioned, what else could they do? How about starting a civilization? Think about it, there isn't just one type of piglin. Much like villagers and illagers, there are a couple of variations of piglins, namely the piglin brute. They hunt in teams, they celebrate together in victory, plus they're able to barter with us for resources. If this isn't a society, well then, I don't know what you're defining a society as. But it doesn't stop there. Piglins are found all over the nether, but there's one very particular place where they're found congregating. Bastion remnants, which if the name doesn't give it away, aren't entirely in one piece. They're remnants of their former selves. Clearly in the lore of the game, piglins have been able to form societies, build civilizations, and defend against intruders. Who then were the intruders? Given the fact that piglins are immediately hostile to you, the player, I would suspect that they're at war against the ancient builders, our ancestors. This would first of all explain the ruined state of the bastions, but would also explain what all the natural netherite was mined for in the first place. If they're under attack, netherite would provide them the perfect defense. The ancient builders were using diamond gear, so why not counter with a fortress made of netherite parts? It's fire resistant, it's perfect for being built into the the landscape of the Nether, and it's super strong. However, like most natural resources, it will eventually begin to run out. Their defenses weaken, and although netherite is stronger than diamond, it's not indestructible. So with no netherite left to replace the broken parts, the bastions fall and are left in ruin. The piglins seem to have won the war. I mean, look who's still kicking around the Nether in the present day, but they lost the most valuable resource that they had in the process. As centuries passed, those bastions that fell became buried underground, much like the ancient cities that exist in our world. But with netherite's fire resistance, any broken scraps that were left in the bastions would survive the lava flows and ground shifts, so it would never really decompose, leaving us with the ancient debris buried deep underground that we know today. Something else I always thought was weird about the bastions is that you can find netherite and ancient debris in the chests, but not netherite tools or armor. With this in mind, it does kind of make sense. There are no diamonds in the Nether, so they had no means to make netherite gear, but they had plenty of gold, so they could make ingots and blocks in order to fortify their bastions. It would also explain the piglins' affinity for gold. What do we use to create a netherite ingot? 4 scraps and 4 gold ingots. Knowing that they have a limited amount of pure netherite, the piglins have resorted to making a netherite alloy of sorts, using one of the other natural resources that they have down in the Nether, gold, which is why they're willing to give you all manner of items for even a single nugget. They're trying to collect whatever scraps they can to rebuild their civilization after the ancient builders destroyed it. And their hatred still stands today. Why else would they be immediately hostile to you? You're an invasive species, one whose kind has already been down here before and brought ruin to their thriving society. Piglins get especially mad when you try and take a look in the bastion chests. Now you're trying to steal the limited resources that they have left to rebuild what they once were. They've even trained piglin brutes to not be blinded by gold, to just remove that intruder at all costs. In the end, much like we find ourselves trying to piece together clues that we find throughout Minecraft to construct a history of this world, the piglins themselves might be in the same position, piecing together remnants of their past in order to reconstruct their history. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Hey, this is a Pokemon. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's a picture of Nurse Joy, one of the most famous, most beloved characters to come out of the Pokemon anime. I mean, this is a character who dates back to like episode 2 of the series, so she's been kicking around for a long time. And sure, she looks like a human, talks like a human, behaves like a human, but by the end of this video, you're gonna be convinced that Nurse Joy is in fact a fully catchable Pokemon. Roll that intro. Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show that wants you to tap that subscribe button like you're trying to skip through some NPC dialogue. Also, as we kick things off here, it's worth mentioning that today is actually a double feature for all you Poke fans. Right now, over on Food Theory, I'm actually analyzing what Pokemon humans in the game universe are most likely to eat. Are they devouring Kabutops kebabs, Snorlax sausage, maybe some Krabby Patties? Not those. Those! It is literal Pokemania over here, friends, so once you've watched this one, make sure you click on over and check out that one too. The results of that video are, surprising, to say the least. But on to today's game theory. While we were all busy worrying about how old Ash really is or whether Ditto's related to Mewtwo, Nurse Joy has been the anime's secret hiding in plain sight for the last 2.5 decades. As a brief recap for those of you who are unaware, Nurse Joy is the character responsible for running all the Poke Centers of the anime universe. And over in the game world, she appears in both Pokemon Yellow as well as Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is how I'm justifying this one being a game theory. If you speak to any Pokemon fan and ask them to describe Nurse Joy, I have no doubt that you'll get an immediate and detailed response. Much like Ash, Misty, and Brock, Nurse Joy is just one of those iconic characters with an iconic look. Pink and white nurse's outfit, blue eyes, and striking pink hair that curls in the front and forms 2 large hoops in the back. Like I said, simply iconic. There isn't a single other character that looks anything like Nurse Joy, except for, well, you know, all the other Nurse Joys. You see, Nurse Joy isn't just one character, but in fact hundreds, thousands, all identical and all running various Pokemon centers throughout the Pokemon world. In the meta sense, this is obviously meant to be a joke about how games often put an identical healer character in all the towns that you visit. But the in-universe lore explanation is that they're all related to each other. It's something that we hear as early as episode 2. While Team Rocket is busy destroying the Pokemon Center, Nurse Joy is transferring all the Pokemon there over to Pewter City. We see another Nurse Joy on the other end of the video call explaining that all the Pokemon arrived safely, to which Viridian's Nurse Joy replies,
Hey, Thanks, sis.
So they're sisters. All of them are sisters? Well, not entirely. When visiting the Orange Islands, Ash and company encounter a Nurse Joy who claims to be
The second cousin of the sister-in-law of the Joy in Saffron City.
And that's kind of an explanation, I guess? Just because you're related doesn't mean that you're gonna look this much alike, especially when you're dealing with different parents in different parts of the world. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know what makes a whole lot more sense? That they're all Pokemon. In the Pokemon world, identical children is actually the norm, not for humans, but for Pokemon. Look at this army of Pikachus, this flock of Pidgeys, Ash's Charmander versus Richie's Charmander. They are practically interchangeable. Every Chansey in every Poké Center in pretty much every episode, they all look the same. And if Nurse Joy was also a Pokemon, her legion of identical family members would make much more sense. But you know that I wouldn't be making this episode if that was all the evidence I have. That, my friends, is just the start. The thesis. By the end of today's episode, you're gonna be convinced that Nurse Joy should be getting an entry of her own into the National Dex. First, I want to point out that not only are all Nurse Joys practically identical, they're also all female. This would be a weird, highly improbable event for humans, but for Pokemon, it's actually the expected outcome. In episode 28 of the Diamond and Pearl series, we meet Paige and Marnie, two daughters of a Nurse Joy, which, actually reveals Joy to be their last name rather than the first name. Never really thought about that one. Anyway, Paige and Marnie Joy. Notice anything unusual about these two? They're identical to their mother. We even see their father, Karsten, in this episode, and yeah, doesn't look like anyone took a dip in that gene pool. Normally, when you have a child, that child shares half their genetic makeup with the mother and half with the father, resulting in a look that's roughly a combination of the two. With Nurse Joy's kids, though, that's clearly not the case. And guess where else we see this happen? In Pokemon species. Back in Gen 2 of the games, we were introduced to Pokemon breeding, and when you breed two Pokemon together, the baby will always be the same species as their mother. Not only that, but the babies will look just like a smaller version of their parents. I mean, look at that little guy. Oh, how cute is he? Oh, you're so cute. Yes, you are. Oh, you were so cute until you got retconned by Pichu. Yes, you did. Sorry, where was I? Oh yeah. So if Nurse Joy was in fact a Pokemon, we would expect all of her children, regardless of the father, to be mini versions of Nurse Joy, which, go figure, is exactly what we see in the anime. Instead of it being a statistical improbability, it actually would be the expected result. And like I alluded to earlier, it also explains both kids being female. The introduction of breeding in Gen 2 also brought with it the introduction of biological sex, because Nidoran male and female from Gen 1 didn't count, apparently. And as you would expect, most Pokemon have both male and female variants, but there are a few species that are only one sex, all entirely male or all entirely female. All female Pokemon include the likes of Jinx, Kangaskhan, and wouldn't you know it, Chansey, Nurse Joy's ever-faithful medical assistant. So with Nurse Joy's all being female, she's either the luckiest genetic coin flipper ever, or the much more likely scenario, she's actually a species of Pokemon that just doesn't have a male counterpart. In other words, the way Nurse Joys look and the way they reproduce all align closer to Pokemon than they do with humans. But obviously there are some exceptions, right? Brock, the anime's biggest Nurse Joy expert, has the ability to notice slight differences between them. And yeah, there are also slight variations within Pokemon species, like between Ash's Pikachu and Richie's Pikachu. This would explain the small differences that you see between different Nurse Joys. But then, what about this? Nurse Joys that are different in more than just their eyelash length, like we see in Black and White and Sun and Moon. Well, they're shiny and regional variants of the Nurse Joy Pokemon. Back in Gen 7, the Hawaii-based Sun and Moon games introduced a new Pokemon mechanic, regional variants, where Pokemon that have lived in certain environments for a long period of time have evolved to adapt to their new surroundings. The Red Fox Vulpix is now found up in a snowy mountain, so he becomes a snow fox. Executor grows into a tall palm tree like on island shorelines, unlike their inland counterparts who are stumpy because they don't get enough sun. And I propose to you that some of these different looking Nurse Joys actually function in the same way. Case in point, in the Orange Islands, Ash and company encounter a Nurse Joy that looks identical to the mainland Nurse Joys that we've come to know, except there's one major difference. Her skin is noticeably more tanned. Now, the show tries to explain this as a natural tan because she's on an archipelago, but Sun and Moon's Nurse Joys live in yet another tropical environment, but they're as pasty and pale as I am. So if one island's Nurse Joy is tan and another island's Nurse Joy isn't, then what's the difference? Well, maybe she's just a shiny Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon have been around since Gen 2 and basically look identical to the rest of their species, but with one key difference: their color palette. They're also incredibly rare, which is why this is the only shiny form of Nurse Joy that we've ever seen in the entire series. So by her being a Pokemon, the looks are explained, the kids are explained, explained, the variants are explained. What I haven't explained is, you know, pretty much everything else, like the fact that she's a human who talks. She looks and speaks like a normal human using regular words and sentences rather than going around shouting her name in everyone's face. And admittedly, it'd be weird if all of a sudden she just started repeating, Nurse Joy, to all the trainers coming in for a quick heal. But the anime actually gives us our counterexample in the form of Team Rocket's Meowth. Living proof that Pokemon have the power to evolve differently when they put their minds to it. For those of you who aren't aware, Meowth in the anime physically manipulated his body to walk on two legs. He even taught himself how to speak English, and with a Brooklyn accent no less, all to try and make himself more appealing to the love of his life, Meowsy. Why? Because she explicitly told him that she preferred humans.
You'll never be human, so just forget about me.
So this tells us that Pokemon have the ability to speak clear and articulate English, if they want it. But it certainly doesn't explain the other elephant in the room, the fact that she looks human. No amount of willpower is gonna turn Meowth into something that doesn't look like a cat. And that seems to be the deal breaker for today's theory. She can have all the identical siblings and tiny female versions of herself that she wants. She can't be a Pokemon because she doesn't look like a Pokemon. Theory busted. Or so you might think. The actual explanation for that lies in the past, both for Pokemon and for this channel. Now, first, I'd like to call out the fact that humanoid Pokemon do exist. Jinx, Mr. Mime, the Machop family, all of them are like an evolutionary stone's throw away from clocking in for a 9 to 5 and settling down in the suburbs. But we don't even have to extrapolate that far. All we have to do is turn to the lore. 7 years ago, I covered a theory about how Pokemon and people used to be one and the same. We've come a long way since then and gained a lot of new subscribers, so rather than forcing you to go back and watch the cringe that is that video, seriously, please do not go and watch that one. I'll instead just recap what you need to know here. Firstly, we have various Pokedex entries, almighty sources of knowledge throughout the Pokemon world, which draw a direct connection between humans and Pokemon. For example, Frostlass's entry from Pokemon Sun reads,
The soul of a woman lost on a snowy mountain possessed an icicle, becoming this Pokemon.
And that's just the tip of the human-shaped iceberg. Where Frostlass, as well as other Pokemon like Yamask and Phantump, are spirits of humans, Kadabra's entry is something else entirely. Quote from Pokemon Fire Red's Pokedex,
It happened one morning. A boy with extrasensory powers awoke in bed, transformed into Kadabra.
Here we have explicit proof of people turning into Pokemon. But what we need now is the flip of that. We need Pokemon turning into people. And for that, the Diamond and Pearl games have us covered. You see, in Kanalave City, there's a library. And in that library are a number of books that speak to Pokemon myths and folklore. Number 3 carries the particularly interesting quote, There once were Pokemon that became very close to humans. There once were humans and Pokemon that ate together at the same table. It was a time when there existed no differences to distinguish the two. They ate together at the same table, you say? Sure, sounds like one of those ye olde euphemisms to me. But the fun doesn't stop there. If you look online and find the original Japanese for these, they can literally be translated to quote, There once were Pokemon that married people. There once were people that married Pokemon. This was a normal thing because long ago people and Pokemon were the same. Pokemon and humans looking and acting the same, marrying one another? Like maybe perhaps a nurse, Pokemon Joy, marrying the husband, human Karsten? But the final piece of evidence here is from Folktale 2. Quote, Here lived a Pokemon in a forest. In the forest, the Pokemon shed its hide to sleep as a human. I mean, this right here. This outright shows us that not only were Pokemon and humans one and the same, but that Pokemon had the ability to become people. 7 years ago, we theorized that this was because of the human mind, the thing that differentiates us from animals. Certain Pokemon would choose to give up their special powers for the ability to grow mentally, to learn, to communicate. And honestly, I think that this is exactly what happened to the species of Pokemon we now know as Nurse Joy. And better yet, I think I know the Pokemon that chose to evolve into her. Let's paint a picture, shall we? Throughout the anime, Nurse Joy has had a couple of Pokemon companions, but none is more iconic than Chansey. And it makes a lot of sense for Chansey to be the one there to support Nurse Joy. Quote from Platinum's Pokedex entry,
A kindly Pokemon that lays highly nutritious eggs and shares them with injured Pokemon or people.
Its evolved form Blissey actually is very similar.
It has a very compassionate nature. If it sees a sick Pokemon, it will nurse the sufferer back to health.
This line of Pokemon is well documented as being caregivers and healers. They would do anything to help a Pokemon or a person. Chansey also has some interesting design features that are worth pointing out. A simple line smile, tall and thin blue eyes, that iconic pink hair, which which, kinda matches the iconic design of that favorite human nurse of ours. And also, when it evolves into Blissey, that hair becomes curly, just like that certain nurse we all know and love. But why? Why would Chansey ever need to evolve into a human form? Well, think about it this way. These folktales talk of a world from long ago, when people and Pokemon were the same, but that's clearly no longer the case. Back in those days when Pokemon were all wild and they lived in harmony with people, Chansey could easily help everyone that she came across. But now that Pokemon are just seen as animals, lesser than humans, well, it makes it very hard for Chansey to help both humans and Pokemon. I mean, how would you feel if you walked to your local doctor and found a dog sitting there waiting to give you a shot? Making it even more complicated, Pokemon and people don't just live segregated, people now capture, train, and battle Pokemon for sport. Where before Chansey may have come across a sick Pokemon that had eaten the wrong kind of berry or something, now there are broken and injured Pokemon fainting left, right, and center. But while they're in the control of humans, Chansey can't get anywhere close to helping them. A human, though, would have the chance. So, Chansey did the only thing it could. Over time, it evolved to act like a human, to speak like a human, just like Meowth did, but it took it one step further. It began to look like a human. And with the understanding and respect from humans, she was able to build a global hospital empire that would allow Chansey to continue doing the thing that she loved most, caring for both Pokemon and their trainers, literally bringing some joy to everyone in the world. So there you have it, friends, the secret final evolution of Chansey to the human that we've all known and loved for decades, Nurse Joy. Kinda makes you wonder about Officer Jenny now, doesn't it? Another day, friends, another day. But hey, that's just a theory. One of two theories all about the Pokemon universe that you can watch right now. For years, people have been asking me about whether people eat Pokemon and which would be the tastiest, but over on Food Theory today, I've actually gone one better to tell you the breakdown of the entire food economy of the